kanina, yung, kasi ang active pa ngayon yung Facebook, SMNI, Ikan sa Masa para sa Masa Puso ng Bayan, News Plus. Sa YouTube, laban kasama ang Bayan Social Media, DZAR 1026. Tapos yung TikTok, SMNI News Puso ng Bayan, News Plus. May magagawa ba ang NBC dito, Mr. Chair?
The order principally covers the privileges granted under the franchise. And this includes the provisioning of free-to-air radio and television. Insofar as platforms like social media, we would like to inform that these are basically not within the realm of the operations of the franchise, Mr. Chair. So we are at this time limited only to the scope of what the franchise and the authorities granted as a result of the franchise is covered, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, kung gano'n yung mga lumalabas, puro red tagging, fake news, etc. dito sa mga following platforms na ito, Mr. Chair, hindi ba dapat ay i-address din natin itong usapin na ito, Mr. Chair? Hindi ba dapat suspend din natin yung operations ng may mga record ng red tagging, and sino-sino, Mr. Chair, gusto natin malaman, sino-sino ba yung mga managers ng accounts na ito? Saka ano yung guidelines, social media posting ng SMNI sa program na ito, Mr. Chair? Tapos pasagutin po natin yung may-ari ng mga ano, diba?
Okay, NTC, ano po masasabi nyo sa process?
We'll take cognizance of the observations by the Honorable Martin Rosas, Mr. Chair, and we'll take a look at those instances.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may action ba? May pwede bang gawin yung NTC as far as we know dito sa mga cases na ganito? Wala. Hindi na covered yung mga social media platforms, sa website, pagtanggal, pag-suspend, Mr. Chair?
NTC, is that with your mandate?
Wala po.
Insofar as the authorities issued by NTC, Mr. Chair, unfortunately, hindi po siya covered. So, we will have to take a look at it further.
We'll have to study that particular issue and look at the mandate of NTC. And of course, we also have to discuss this with the ICD. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So the question now is to SMNI. Pwede niyo po sagutin. Ano po mga komento niyo dito? So sinabi po ni Congresswoman Rosas.
Was asking for the manager of accounts.
I think, Mr. Chair,
Sige, Attorney Mark.
the Honorable Congresswoman Rosas, Mr. Chair, she has an option to file a case against the SMNI. There's a criminal case, there's also a civil case for the armed force, because all the statements of the armed force are not the official stand of SMNI. That is their personal opinion. In fact, as what I've said in our previous hearing, Mr. Chair, there is a disclaimer in every program. So, and I would like to cite also the constitutional, the Supreme Court jurisprudence, Mr. Chair, that there is the freedom of press and freedom of expression is the highest, one of the highest constitutional rights guaranteed by the state, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Attorney Mark. Pala po yung mahaba ng diskusyon yung issue yan. Even the previous hearing, and you were shut down on that issue, and you made it very clear that in the democratic space, there's also limitations, and of course one of them is in fake news is not part of it. So anyway, do not ever go there because you argue that way. The committee has already positioned already on that particular issue. On the disclaimer, we have manifested in the past that you cannot use this because you can imagine if all black timers will have a disclaimer, and therefore you're trying to tell us that MTRCB has no reach over all of these particular programs, and they're content. So I don't think we can also hide under that. But anyway, we now proceed. Congresswoman
Yes,
Rosas,
Mr. Chair.
please proceed.
I have a specific request. Ang specific request ko po ay malaman kung sino-sino ang may-ari ng mga media accounts na ito. And if it's possible, to give this to the committee right now. Kasi alam naman siguro nila yan at pera naman silang kopya kung sino-sino yung mga kaninong mga accounts ito, Mr. Chair.
That account, Mr. Chair, is owned by SMNI. That is not the account of our personal accounts per staff, but is owned by the Sorasu Media Corporation, Mr. Chair.
So sila pa rin, Mr. Chair. Sa kanila pa rin yun, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Even yung guidelines sa social media posting ng SMNI, meron kayo? Paano nyo yun kinoconsider? Anong ginagamit ninyo? Do you have papers with you kung ano yung mga media accounts na meron kayo sa YouTube, sa Facebook, sa TikTok? Can we have that right now?
It was already answered, Mr. Chair, that the SMNI has a different social media accounts per program, Mr. Chair.
Look, Mr. Chair, gusto natin makita yung reach. Gusto natin makita kung gaano yung inaabot ng kasinungalingan, ng sinasabi ng mga red doggy, ng mga sinasabi na peddling o fake news. Kailangan makita natin kung paano yun sa aktual. Sino-sino yung may hawak noon, hanggang saan yung mga, ano-anong mga media accounts, Facebook yun, ano-anong mga ganito yan, Mr. Chair. So I was just asking for that, Mr. Chair. It is a list, Mr. Chair, na dapat isubmit ng SMNI, Mr. Chair.
So we direct our SMNI to submit the list as requested by the Honorable Aline Rosas. And the next hearing, we will again follow up on this list. Thank you very much. And yeah,
Sorry, last na lang, Mr. Chair. Oo, kasi tungkol po
Mr. Chair, we will consider the request of Congresswoman Rosas, Mr. Chair, but we're studying also the possible violation of the right to privacy, Mr. Chair, and right against self-incrimination, Mr. Chair.
okay. So please study that of drugs. Thank you. And we will also, the Honorable Paduano, and the Honorable Rosas will insist on that list. Because this committee would ask, so clear as to what is being violated and what particular platforms are being used. But before we proceed, I just like to inform everyone that their names have been submitted to the floor for your attendance. Thank you. So now, you still have a question before we go to the next operator?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Last na lang, Mr. Chair. No? Up to what extent is Apollo Kibuloy's influence in SMNI? Ano po ang kanyang posisyon sa kumpanya sa ngayon, Mr. Chair?
We already answered that, Mr. Chair. Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy is the honorary chairman of SMNI. And he is not part of the day-to-day operation of SMNI.
Pero Mr. Chair, credited siya sa lahat ng mga shows, Mr. Chair.
That is part of our freedom of press and freedom of expression, Mr. Chair, to credit anybody that we want to credit, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, bakit sinasabi sa bawat show, no? Halimbawa, ng Laban Kasama ang Bayan, palagi pong nagpapasalamat ito sa host, kay Apollo Kibuloy. And I quote, at gayon din sa ating pinakamamahal, kagalang-galang at butining Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy na siyang gumawa, may akda at nagpahatid ng programang ito, Mr. Chair. So every time yun, Mr. Chair, tapos sasabihin niyo sa akin, ganito yung kanyang position lang.
Nagpapasalamat, Mr. Chair, yung mga anchor in their personal capacity, Mr. Chair.
Anyway, Mr. Chair, We have several questions, ano, dito sa kay Pastor Kibuloy, Mr. Chair. I think it's about time that we call Mr. Chair for Pastor Kibuloy na pumunta dito at to answer our questions, our specific questions. Ano po? Kasi, Mr. Chair, siguro last time naman, na-request naman na natin ito eh. Heads of agencies come here in Congress para tayo ay sagutin sa mga mahalaga nating tanong. And we would like to, siguro dapat, no, it's about time na paupuin po natin, paharapin po natin, at matanong natin ang diretsyo si Pastor Kibuloy dito sa mga katanungan natin kasi hindi po ito masasagot ng attorney lang, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, that is correct, our representative process. We have already invited, not only once, but on several occasions, Pastor Apollo Cobiloy to attend this hearing, considering that there are so many issues that needs to be clarified, lalo na yung pangalan niya, yung nandyan sa Suarasu. So therefore, Mr. Chair, I move that this committee issue a show cause order to Pastor Apollo Cobiloy why he should not appear here. So move, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Okay. I would like to amend my motion, considering that this is very important. I'd like to move that we issue, this committee rather issue a subpoena to Pastor Kibuloy to compel him to be present during the next hearing. And we will remind Attorney Mark Tolentino that after the subpoena, if Pastor Kibuloy does not appear, then we will be constrained to request for a warrant of arrest for him to appear here. Or rather, to move for a contempt order, and after hindi pa rin siya sisipot, yun na yung warrant. That's what I mean. So, Mr. Chair, on my previous motion, again, I move for the issuance of subpoena to Pastor Kibuloy to appear on this committee. So move, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Vice Chair Pimentel, duly seconded. The chair in objections. The motion of the Honorable Pimentel is approved.
Mr. Chair, very short lang po.
Yes.
In relation lang dun sa naging question kanina. Dahil po, we're exploring options. Actually po, the NTC has had a history of blocking websites na may mga sinasite po siyang dahilan bakit siya na-block ng specific website. So, Sir Chair, for the record lang, that can be one of the options kung kita naman talaga na detrimental to public interest ang mga pinobroadcast or pinapakalat ng SMNI. In particular naman sa mga social media applications like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, yun, pwede pong directly padalhan ng formal communications ang head ng ganitong mga social media applications. Yun, sa kung ano man yung pwedeng i-recommend na action against SMNI. Yun lang, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Patel. The chair now recognizes the Honorable Joseph Stephen Baguano, better known as your
Anyway, in relation to all the questions being raised by Congressman Manuel and Congressman Castro, ay pinakalas is yung blocking ng mga platform. Now, NTC, have we done that in the past?
Yes, Mr. Chair, there have been instances of that nature, and these were upon determination by appropriate agencies, Mr. Chair.
And what is that appropriate agencies?
These were upon determination by law enforcement agencies, Mr.
So, Mr. Chairman, sino mag-initiate? NTC, then you get the opinion of the law enforcement agency. Then, ano na ba? Yung, ano na, yung balik kalakaran, ilapas ng NTC.
Mr. Chair, on instances, these were based on determination by appropriate agencies based on existing laws that are in place to include like the ISAPO and COSAE.
So, for example, in ISA, it was NTC. When the president issue an order to stop it is NTC that stopped it.
It was endorsed to the NTC, Mr. Chair.
It was endorsed by who?
By the PNP, Mr. Chair.
By the PNP because of... Hindi ganito na lang, Mr. Chair, para hindi tayo makagal. Kasi gusto ko lang isundan. Kasi what stop us from doing it? Diba? Kung pwede naman, you have the authority to do it. You have the mandate to do it. Ang ganito lang, Mr. Chairman, siguro, before the next hearing, we direct the NTC to submit that particular case, no, para makita lang natin if indeed you have the mandate and authority to do it. But of course, if you want to consult or other agencies or get the recommendation of other agencies, we will do it. But ang ano ko lang, Mr. Chair, kasi parang in the light of this investigation, SMNI, franchise, extension, may suspension, may CDO, but of course, question of freedom of the press, laging ano ni Atty. Tolentino, freedom of the press, that should not be suppressed. So, lahat may limitation, di ba, attorney, di ba? Na ako, ganito na lang para malinaw. INTC, please submit to this committee a case similar to the situation of the SMNI other platform or web page. Pag-isapin na lang po.
We will comply, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, ang ano ko lang doon, observation ko, since the previous hearing, dati si Atty. Tolentino lang, no? You might be saying na, may disclaimer, parang ngayon mga board na, kaya na, may disclaimer, alam namin yan, yung iba hindi namin napanood, pero kung totoo yan, kasi may transcript, parang wala kayong responsibilidad dun sa mga angkor nyo. Ang feeling ko is, kahit kung ano mong sabihin na mga angkors nyo, and even those resource persons invited by your rank-command and women, parang wala kayong disiplina sa mga tao nyo. At ang malinaw diyan, hindi talaga, ofan, hindi papasa sa Code of Ethics and Standards. But of course, pwede naman mag-file ng libel, di ba? Pwede naman, ang option dyan is, na individual, na reklamo is to file proper court. But, of course, we have agencies of government that should regulate. Kaya may ATC din, may NSCB, may KBP. Unfortunately, you disassociate your membership with KBP. So, punta ako mamaya KBP. Yun lang, Mr. Chair. Kasi walang, ang laging puntong nire-raise ng mga members nila, especially those being tagged, red tag. Ngayon, special rapporteur. Yun yung tira sa special rapporteur. Ang sagot nyo, okay lang. Kasi may disclaimer. Kasi right niya na anchor. Eh, pwede ba yun? Diba? Eh, anyway, Mr. Chairman, yung nasabi ko, nasa NTC yan. No? Check natin sa NTC with regards to actions that should be taken, kung may mga agencies na kailangan dyan involve natin. Para tapos ang tao, cases that should be filed, para anyway, franchise ang pinag-usapan dito. Pero sa totoo, after the franchise, just in case, it will be revoked, may other platform pa. Diba? And now, kung walang airing doon sa station, sa mga radio stations, eh nandiyan pa rin yung platform. If it's the government, whatever agency is concerned, dapat gumawa ng paraan. Gumawa ng hakbang. Hindi pwede hanggang wala. Parang walang magawa ang gobyerno sa SMNI. Kasi SMNI na naman ang sa ngayon eh. Hanggang yan yung kanda. Other radio stations, other TV stations, kahit yung mga establish na matagal ng radio station, sinusundan na nila yung phonetics. Eh, pero SMNI wala. Anyway, yun na yun po sa akin. Kaya, NTC, please submit the requested document before the next hearing. Kasi hindi pa naman ito last. Now, Chairman, may I ask the KBP? KBP, though, wala na, hindi na member yung SMNI with the KBP. But yung complaint against SMNI previously, ano yung updates doon?
Mr. Chair, insofar as the complaint filed against SMNI for acts that were allegedly committed while they were a member, KBP could take compliance in other courts. Procedurally, KBP suspends its hearing to give way to the courts or government agencies to conduct their own investigation. Because we are self-regulation and the courts of law have, are above us, Your Honor.
Yeah, correct. But you have your mandate. Now there is a pending case outside, but there is a complaint also.
Yes, Your Honor, that's why I was explaining our procedure, that we suspend hearing because there is a pending case involving the same issues in the court with jurisdiction.
Who filed?
We were informed
You were informed.
no,
You don't have the document?
Your Honor, that was information given in this committee. The pending cases against SMNI.
I should only do regular present. Wala. Kasi Mr. Chairman, ako, I will not decide for my vote with regards to the revocation on the House Bill filed by Congressman Rodriguez, unless hindi na talagang basis. Na for example, NTC, medyo malinaw na yan, pero wala pang finality. Now, KPP, I'm waiting for your final decision with regards to the case of complaint filed against SMNI para magamit namin dito. Eh, alam mo yung regular form now. Mr. Chairman, in the next hearing, we will invite Mr. Domingo para malinaw. Kasi, ano ba yan? Forum shopping, ang case. And I will check also KVP. I will also check with the legal department in the House if there is a legal impediment with regards to that. Kasi, but walang legal impediment that it will not be a forum shopping. Eh, you better check with your legal also. Para pag nagkita-kita tayo dito next hearing, hindi ka magka-problema. Baka mamaya ang opinion ng legal dito sa House is different from what you have said.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we note that we will take cognizance.
Thank you. Chairman, next. Last na, Chairman. yung sa NTRCB, nandito ba sila? NTRCB, what is now the update of the case? Or the complaint?
The complaint po against the two TV, Your Honors, the complaints regarding the two TV programs po, ilan sa masa, para sa masa, and laban sa Samang Bayan, we already decided on it. We have, the decision was for 28 days suspension, including the preventive suspension. SMNI filed a notice of appeal, so we are going to submit the records of the case to the Office of the President's Appeals Committee now.
So, 28 days suspension.
Yes, Your Honor.
Paano, ma'am? Anyway, simple man, can we directly enter sa submit the copies of that complaint and at the same time the decision of the
Yes, Your Honor.
para lang po makita namin if indeed there's a basis for the revocation of the franchise. Kasi yan ang patas tayo dito.
Yes, sir, Your Honor, if I may. One of the findings of the board, Your Honor, is that there was a violation of Section 3C of our mandate, which is in connection with Section 4 of the franchise, the legislative franchise, Your Honor. So this one of our cases, Your Honor, also in the Section 4 franchise responsibility of that.
Okay, so SMNI appeal to the 28 days suspension.
Yes, Your Honor, it is already with the Office of the President.
When was that? Submitted to the Office of the President.
They submitted their notice to appeal, Your Honor, last February 1, Your Honor. And we are in the process of transmitting the records of the case to the Office of the President.
Pero notice pa lang yan.
Yes, Your Honor.
Anyway, LLP, just submit those documents available with regards to the complaint and decision of the MTRCB para makita lang po namin. Lalo na yung you mentioned about the violation of your decision with regards to the violation of the provisions of the franchise. Thank you.
Thank you, the Honorable Pagmano. Now the chair recognizes the Honorable Olga.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. I came this afternoon, having read in our schedule, 4 items that my understanding is being taken up together in the committee. These are all serious resolutions, condemning fake news and revoking a legislative franchise, and that's why I came. And I want to make sure that whatever vote I put in is an informed one. I wanted to give SMNI all the opportunity to give us reasons not to support revoking a franchise, because the last thing I'd like to see are for officers, employees to be affected and lose their employment, just like what happened with ABS-CBN. But I'm having a hard time accepting some of the responses from the representatives of the SMNI. But just to clarify, I understand, I think Attorney Tolentino, Mr. Chair, said that if anchors are doing things wrong, there's always, you can always address those issues by filing civil and criminal cases. So and I understand that that goes for any industry. We all have a right to file civil, criminal cases, and I don't think that's a sufficient response. Does SMNI have, just like other media outlets that I think they have, which are internal guidelines to discipline let's say, talent? Because I know in on TV, if a talent, let's say, says something that's really, unacceptable, they'll discipline a talent. Do you have any standards or guidelines for your own people?
Can I respond to Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair, I'd like to manifest that we submitted with the committee the TV and radio manual of operation, Mr. Chair. So we have a guideline, Mr. Chair.
No, specifically, Mr. Chair, if a anchor says something that just we all, 100% of the population agree is wrong. Kasi an anchor says, rating na lang inyo yan, di ba? Okay? So, without somebody filing a case or complaining to you, how would you pick that up and how would you discipline that talent?
Mr. Chair, we have an editorial board, Mr. Chair. And for details, Mr. Chair, the operation manager of SMNI can explain that in detail.
If I may, Mr. Chair, the Honorable Congressman po na example is, of course, that's, kung meron po nagsabi lang sinabi nyo na reveal na lang yan, hindi po yun uupra sa editorial policy ng SMNI. At sigurado po na kung hindi lang mapapatawag, ay matatanggal po kung ganun po ang bigat po ng
But
sinabi.
how would, if let's say no one complained to you, how would you know one of your talent said something like that? Because kanina tinanong po kayo, I think 2 or 3 members asked you about certain statements that were, I personally felt wrong on red tagging, but none of you denied knowing those statements were made, so nothing was ever done. So how do you actually monitor? Because youths apparently don't monitor your own shows and your own talent.
Your Honor, every afternoon program po, Your Honor, may mga report na ginagawa yung mga producers namin and assessment. About po yung mga anchors po namin, meron po yung team po namin and maliban pa dun sa assessment na binibigay ng mga producers po, papatawag po sila po.
So, Mr. Chair, then I would assume yung mga pinakita kanina, mga sinabi, at the judgment of your editors, hindi report yun kasi parang okay lang. Is that correct?
With regards po, sir, kung comment lang po ang sinabi, komento po ng ating mga anchors po, merong certain gauge na ginagawa yung editorial policy po namin. Kung ito ay komento lang po ba, or kasi gaya po na sinasabi po namin, kung ano po yung komento ng mga anchors po namin, hindi po yung stand ng company. So kung meron po siyang sasagutin po, yung mga anchors po namin, siya po magiging liable po sa mga sinasabi po niya. Your Honor, I'd like to clarify po. Iba po yung iba po yung pinapatakaran po natin kung ito po ay news program or kung ito po ay commentary ng mga programa. Kasi sa news po, hindi po pwede mag-comment po ang ating mga, yung ating mga reporters. Iba po ang stand po natin dyan. But in terms po sa mga program katulad ng Laban Kasama ang Bayan, Pulso ng Bayan, commentary po ang mga programang ito, Your Honor. And may free hand po yung ating mga anchors po na magbigay ng komento kung ano po yung pinag-uusapan po nila. And yung komento po nila ay ito po ay personal opinion po ng mga anchors po namin. At ulitin, kaya po sinasabi po namin, kaya po kami may disclaimer dahil kung ano man po ang opinion ng aming mga anchors, hindi po ito personal stand ng network po.
Okay, fair enough, Mr. Chair. So may I ask, since you've been operational, I think it's 2-3 years, has there ever been a sanction or a penalty given to any talent that has a show?
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes,
Congressman,
please proceed.
meron pong, number one, I just want to put on record that immediately after we received the cease and desist order from the National Telecommunications Commission, we have never violated transmission on digital channel 43 and all other format under the supervision of the National Telecommunications Commission. Now, going back to the question of Congressman Paul, Mr. Chairman, we have, as a matter of fact, in the case of Mr. Eric Celis, when he admitted, we conducted an internal investigation. However, the internal investigation was preempted when he appeared before this committee and admitted, said or uttered a statement that in effect is an admission of a violation. So we immediately imposed the maximum sanction provided for under the Manual of Operations of the Suaraso Media Corporation, Mr. Chairman.
So,
Which was? What was the?
Which was suspension,
How
Mr.
long?
10 days, Mr. Chairman.
and Mr. Chair,
Maximum yun 10 days. Maximum penalty para 10 days. Correct.
and that's the maximum.
No, Mr. Chairman, yes, over the last several days, we have amended some portions of our manual for disciplining employees, and we have imposed a varying sanctions with a maximum of expulsion or termination of services.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Sasa.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, thank you for sharing that information. That helps this particular representation balance things. So I'm curious, was that sanction done before or after the video showed by the Honorable Raul Manuel?
With respect to the video presented by the Honorable Manuel, Mr. Chairman, I'm not quite certain whether this video were called from the social media platform, because as I said in the beginning, from the time we received the suspension order and the CDO, we ceased to transmit any broadcast on the regulated transmission platform as provided for in the franchise of the Suaraso Media Corporation, Mr. Chairman.
To clarify, so that video was done on a personal basis?
No, Mr. Chairman, I wish I can clarify where he called that video, whether that was from a broadcast to free-to-air or from the social media platform.
Sige, Mr. Chair, can we have Honorable Manuel clarify on that?
Yeah. Mr. Chair, the video was posted in the online accounts of SMNI on January 9, 2024.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So it appears now it was still in compliance with the NTC. We did not air it on transmitted platform on free-to-air. It was on social media platform.
So was it before or after your sanction, your 10-day suspension?
After.
It was done after the 10-day suspension. So something like that, may I ask, what would your plans be? You sanctioned in 10 days, and then you saw the video. What action can the company now take?
The sanction refers to free-to-air. The sanction, social media kasi, hindi po namin pwedeng sagkain yung mga personal na na pronouncement nila.
Pero Mr. Chair, talent po ninyo, kasi after the 10-day suspension, you're paying him again.
No, we're not airing, Mr. Chairman.
No, my question was not airing talent or whatever.
He's a talent, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry.
He's a talent.
Talent, okay? So he has some sort of relationship with the company. You have supervision with that talent. You suspended him for 10 days. You were suspended by NTC, and then you see a. I mean, I'm in the minority. I'm not here to defend the speaker, but having seen what Congressman Manuel showed in the video, I think it hurts the institution, not just the speaker, and I'm defending the institution. So my question is, not whether you're gonna air it, so what sanction would you take now? Because it's germane to the issue whether you deserve to be revoked or not. So it's a management decision. Do you deserve to continue your franchise? It's not a hard question.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As a matter of fact, after the video that was presented by the Honorable Manuel, I have called the attention of the chair of the editorial board. If it warrants, we will conduct another investigation and impose the necessary amended sanction as may be required.
Okay. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. But it also highlights the fact that you're not really able to monitor your talent. Because it should not have taken a committee hearing to get a statement like that. Correct, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, as I said earlier, when matters does not, kung halimbawa po yung airing niyan ay nagkataon sa Channel 43, which is under the supervision of the National Telecommunications and pursuant to the franchise issued by the Honorable House, we will certainly take cognizance immediately. But since this is a social media platform, wala po kaming wala po, ang nire-recommend nga po ng aming law department at mga legal is kung may complainant, filean po ng kaso sila at papapanagutin po namin sila sa batas.
Sige, Mr. Chair. Fair enough. That episode was January 9th. To this particular member of the House, it's crystal clear to me that you need to have better monitoring and guidelines in disciplining your talent. Okay? I'll leave it at that because I have more questions.
For that, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I'll allow Attorney Tolentino to respond to that.
That January 2024 program, Mr. Chair, is just a form of a question. It's not a statement again, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
It was a question, Mr. Chair, not a statement. I forgot, Mr. Chair, but it's a form of a question, Mr. Chair, not a statement. And granting it as a statement, Mr. Chair, granting it's a statement, that is a personal opinion.
Mr. Chair, okay, no.
Really, the same video.
Yes, Mr. Chair, anyway, Mr. Chair, I have the floor. You're entitled to your opinion, and the fact that you have to say that, instead of, I wanted an opportunity for me to help SMNI. Now, with that statement, it just irks me. Instead of getting a no vote on revoking the franchise, you're defending it by saying, napapalusot. You didn't have to do that, diba? I don't think you're doing a good service to this particular issue for SMNI. Whether it was in a formal statement, you're defending it, diba? Anyway, Mr. Chair, because I don't know if we're voting today or it's going to be more hearing. It hurts me when people lose work. And I'm trying to find reasons not to support this particular House Bill 9710, but they're not. Anyway, let me move forward. I wanted clarity from any of the resources to continue the line of Congresswoman Brosas, Chairman Patuano. somewhat surprised when NTC said that they can, let's say, shut down a website or whatever it is online, provided there's a determination from a law enforcement agency. So my question is, if let's say there's a website or a social media account that's advocating violence, or some sort of an account or site advocating drugs, di ba? Do you actually have to wait? Do you have the power to immediately make a decision? Kunyari, may website selling drugs, di ba? I think all of us will agree that's not acceptable. Would you have to wait for the PNP or the NBI to make a determination for you to shut down that website? Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, if ever there is such thing, what we can do is we can take cognizance of such an activity online, and be more appropriate to refer it to agencies to determine such the actions being shown online. We'll take cognizance of it, Mr. Chair, and bring it to the attention of appropriate agencies who are able to evaluate it more thoroughly before we take action.
Okay, so meaning, Mr. Chair, NTC motu proprio cannot shut down anything online, correct? You would have to refer to someone else.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if we referring to the if we are to go back po kasi dun sa mandate ng NTC.
No, I understand. It's a yes or no. So am I correct?
At this, right now, Your Honor, we are unable to.
Okay. Are there any government agencies that have the power to do that in their mandate? So, let's say, porn sites, trafficking sites, drug sites, ang dami po niyan eh. I've been told that many of the sites, social media accounts, are being closed. So who's doing that?
Specific to your example, Your Honor, on say porn sites or similar sites like that, in this particular case, there's a say the OSAI, and online sexual exploitation and abuse. These are laws that provide guidelines that these are illegal or unauthorized. So there are bases for us to take action on that once the appropriate agencies are able to determine such violations taking place online. Same is true like with also.
Okay, so on certain, so it's criminal activity specific. There are certain laws that enable you to do that, like trafficking or sexual, what did you say, sexual
Online sexual
abuse. You can, on your own, shut them down.
That is upon the determination of the appropriate agency enforcing the law, Mr. Chair.
Does DFCT have the power also to shut down certain online sites?
In this instances, Mr. Chair, it was the NTC that it was caused to the NTC.
So NTC. Okay, thank you for the clarification. Mr. Chair, I came a little late. I saw on the resource person list, SEC. With your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, can I ask the SEC Because I remember in previous hearings, there were allegations of charter violations, franchise violations, corporate. So can the SEC share any findings that we had since then?
Mr. Chair, based on the records that we submitted to the Honorable Committee, the SEC found that there were some violations for failure to comply with the reportorial requirements. And this is the main mandate of the SEC in regards or as regards the regulation of existing corporation. And our records also show that we have already penalized the corporation for these findings of violation, Mr. Chair.
Well, okay, I mean, a lot of corporations do that, and you just penalize them and they pay that penalty. So there's nothing more serious that's been uncovered by SEC, other than late filing of mandatory reports.
So far, Mr. Chair, that is the case with the subject corporation, Mr. Chair.
Okay. For the MTRCB, let's say the complaint was found, it was final, Secretary, the complaint was valid. What steps can MTRCB do? The Honorable Paduano asked, and it's been appealed, but let's just say that there was a final decision, let's say, against, what can MTRCB do?
There is a complaint, Your Honor. We refer to our adjudication in the hearing committee. But if you already have a decision on our final and executive order, we, our monitoring and inspection unit monitors the set TV program or movie from showing or yes, Your Honor, from showing. But,
If you did that,
we actually just, sorry, Your Honor, we just actually found out that we can actually, if there is a final and executory decision, we can actually endorse it to the NTC to help us in assisting us in implementation of the cancellation of certain your TV programs in all media platforms.
oh, okay, and so you would be considered a law enforcement agency that can make the final determination. So do what needs to be done. Okay, my last question, Mr. Chair. Would the NTC or any business persons know, other than ABS-CBN, which was different, ABS, the franchise expired and was not renewed. In this case, for this particular House Bill 9710, it's an existing franchise, and the House Bill is advocating for revocation. In the history of our country, has there ever been any legislative franchise for radio TV that has been revoked? Would you have that historic record? Anyone, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, may I reply? Based on the records of the KPP since its inception in 1974 and the start of the issuance of legislative franchise, there is no incidence of Congress revoking a franchise. As correctly pointed out, Your Honor, the case of AP is even referred to none in 21.
Thank you for that. Mr. Chair, can I ask KBP, would you be aware of any, let's say, outside the Philippines, other countries? And what would be the standard? What would be sufficient justification? Are there any international good practices that we can share to guide members on whether to support or not this particular bill?
I may stand corrected on this, Your Honor. But the regulatory environment in different jurisdictions is different from the Philippines, where a legislative franchise is a condition for the issuance of a broadcast license. In fact, that was the situation in the Philippines pre-martial law, where the Broadcast Media Council were issuing broadcast licenses to operate radio and television stations. It was only post-martial law where the legislative franchise was required for a franchisee to be able to get a permit from the NTC. In the United States, the regime is different. The radio and television licenses are issued by the FCC, but there is no requirement for a legislative franchise. That is also, to my recall, Your Honors, that is also true in other countries in Asia, that a legislative franchise is not required.
Are there any countries, Mr. Chair, that's similar to the Philippines that requires a congressional franchise?
Unfortunately, I'm not aware of any.
Okay, but yeah, thank you. Thank you for your sharing that information. With the NTC, no, has there ever been a similar franchise that's been revoked?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To our knowledge as well, we are not aware of any franchise that has been revoked up to this time, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Last one, Mr. Chair. I wanted to give Attorney Tolentino an opportunity from one lawyer to another. We learned in law school that free speech is not really free. There's a limit to it. I'm sure Attorney Subico knows that. But the classic case, Mr. Chair, is you cannot shout in a crowded movie house, there's a fire, if there's no fire. Just like if I shouted right now, there's a bomb in the room, knowing that there's no bomb, that's not covered by free speech. So I'm curious, Mr. Chair, to give you an opportunity, whether it's your personal or company position, where do you draw the line?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to manifest a Supreme Court jurisprudence about legislative franchise and also in relation to a freedom of press and freedom of expression. This is not my personal opinion, but is based on a Supreme Court jurisprudence approved by the Supreme Court last 2021. The Supreme Court said that a franchise constitutes a property right, which cannot be arbitrarily revoked or forfeited without compliance with the due process law. It means a franchise cannot be revoked or forfeited without undergoing procedure of due process, which must be observed, which necessitates notice and hearing conducted through a court trial. So not a legislative investigation, because legislative investigation is only in aid of legislation. And second, Mr. Chair, it states that the determination of the right to exercise of a franchise, whether or not to enjoy the privilege to be forfeited, shall be subject to a quo warranto proceeding in a regular court, Mr. Chair. And this is a Supreme Court jurisprudence that we believe is a proper way, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I'm winding down, Mr. Chair. Thank you for sharing that. I'm happy to hear that, because I think the House, this committee has had at least 3 or 4 hearings. So in terms of due process, and I don't think that that particular Supreme Court case is really on point, because we do have the power to issue, a franchise, and at the same token, we have the power to revoke. So I don't agree with that case that it has to go through the courts, but I do agree that the concept or the principle of due process is always important, and I'm happy that this committee has heard, despite hearing from the members. And you said earlier they have the right to file civil criminal cases. I asked about internal regulations on how to discipline talent employees. And where do you draw the line? Obviously, Mr. Chair, if a talent says, let's burn down a Jewish temple, I don't think all of us will not be in agreement with that. That would cross the line. So how, as counsel for the company, what are your thoughts on that? I wanted to give you an opportunity because I have to be honest, Mr. Chair. You know, I'm looking for defenses for you guys, but you didn't do a good job doing that. So I'll give you one opportunity, and that was my last question, Mr. Chair.
So when I say due process, Mr. Chair, it is one of the constitutional rights guaranteed under our Philippine Constitution. Yes, we agree with Congressman Daza that that is not absolute. There are certain limitations. But granting that there is limitation, there is a latest jurisprudence of the Supreme Court that in case any rulings, decisions of any government agency that affects Constitution, the freedom of press and freedom of expression, there is a presumption that that government agency's ruling and decision is unconstitutional. It means the Supreme Court emphasized that the freedom of press and freedom of expression is one of the highest constitutional rights guaranteed under the Philippine Constitution. It means the Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines guarantees more protection, more right with respect to the freedom of press and freedom of expression. Yes, sometimes there are irregularities, there are inaccuracy committed by the anchors of the SMNI. But granting those are inaccurate, granting that those are not 100% correct, still covered by the freedom of press and freedom of expression guaranteed by the Philippine Constitution. So therefore, Mr. Chair, in case there are violations by the anchors, there are other options like filing a case, but not to affect or to revoke the franchise, because a franchise granted by the Philippine government is already a proprietary right protected by the due process clause of the Philippine Constitution.
Thank you very much, Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the time given me.
Salamat, the Honorable Daza.
And Mr. Chair, this is not my opinion, Mr. Chair.
Well,
I'm just reading the jurisprudence of the Philippine Supreme Court.
Well, I
Mr. Chair.
think that is your opinion based on what you are reading. If you only nitpick on certain, kasi first of all, we don't know what case are you referring
Can I read the decision, Mr. Chair?
You can just give us a copy because we will definitely, we cannot ask, I don't believe that the Supreme Court will go into
GR number
Excuse me, Attorney Tolentino, you are not yet recognized. Again, please, makikiusap po ko.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and sabi ko, just give us a copy and we will study the points that you have raised. But be rest assured that this is definitely a violation of that. Then you also have the right to go to the court if you want to. Like you have been asking everyone to go to court against your station and to your talents.
Thank you,
I
Dr.
like the smile of the Attorney Lawrence Pico. It's a very nice smile. Okay, and he is, thank you. Anyway, klaro po tayo dyan. Sa inyo, kasi alam po nyo, babasa ko tayo ng pira-pirasong desisyon, hindi ko natin alam yung konteksto ng inyong sinasabi. So, and I know that, the Supreme Court will not, malaki po ang pag-alam po natin sa kanila at malaki naman po ang pag-alam nila sa legislatura. Hindi po sila sasaklaw sa kapangyarihan ng legislature. So maraming salamat, Attorney Carams, Congressman Carams.
Anyway, that's the opinion position of But ito na, Attorney, Section 15 of your franchise. And binigay niya sa inyo yung franchisa at nobody question about it. Section 15. Oh, no, you're telling us, is as if that you're telling us that we don't have the powers authority to approve and revoke franchise. Huwag na natin pag-usapan yung powers, yung franchise na mismo.
Can I make a manifestation, Mr.
No.
Chair?
This week, I think there's a,
Gusto mo sahin po.
Okay, Mr. Chair. Okay.
This,
This franchise shall be subject to amendment, alteration, repeal by the Congress of the Philippines when the public interest so requires, and shall not be interpreted as a exclusive grant of privileges herein provided. That is the law, Mr. Chair. And of course, there's also jurisprudence about that, Mr. Chair.
What jurisprudence na naman yung sinasabi mo?
GR number 1961999.
Kasi tinanggap itong prangkisa na to that we have the right to repeal, amend. I know you're telling us, kapag wala kaming karapatan, ay tinanggap yung prangkisa nyo. Now we want it to amend, to repeal, or to revoke. And we have that authority based on your franchise as a law.
With all due respect, Mr. Chair, although I respect the congressman from Iloilo, Mr. Chair, it says, from Negros, Mr. Chair, it says here, Mr. Chair, when public interest so requires. So who determines when the public interest so requires? So the jurisprudence, Mr. Chair.
Of course, Congress, because we are given the authority, and we only need to give you due process. And what we're doing now is the due process. To amend, to repeal, or to revoke the franchise.
I respect the opinion of the good congressman, Mr. Chair, but still, the power of the Congress is subject to judicial review, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So thank you very much, Attorney Martin Tino.
Mr. Chair.
Hindi po tayo matapos dyan.
Mr. Chair.
Dahil, kasi kung si Attorney Suplico, dito lang ako po, kontrahin kanya.
Mr. Chair, yun nga gusto ko sabihin eh.
Attorney
Baka po
Tino.
pwedeng pagsalitain si dating congressman, Suplico. Nagtataas ang kamay, bakit hindi pagsalitain, Mr. Chair?
I just wanted to add something to what Congressman said. That I remember a case in political law 1 that's taken up during the first year of law proper. My professor was Justice Mendoza. He said that there was a case in the U.S., Dirty Finger, when held in relation to the Vietnam War is protecting speech. That guy, that members of the Mahal not trying to after talking came on the rise. He has a mission over them. That's what he said. So there's a political reason for that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Anyway, the Honorable Angkarax, you've stated your point. There's also another speaker, there's another interpreter.
About lang doon, Mr. Chair, sa question daw ang sinasabi. Mr. Chair, if kaya pong mai-flash po ulit yung ni-refer po kanina. Kasi Mr. Chair, pangalawang beses na rin pong narinig natin na yung mga sinasabi ng SMNI na hindi tama ay dapat lang daw palampasin kasi question. Mr. Chair, I did not imagine na dito sa Kongreso kailangan pa natin mag-lecture or pagpataas ng reading comprehension skills ng ating mga resource person, Mr. Chair. Para patunay nga talaga na may education crisis sa bansa, Mr. Chair. Kasi, tingnan ba naman natin, Mr. Chair, ang subject po ng tanong na yan ang involvement ng Pangulo. Pero Mr. Chair, yung pangre-red tag sa speaker, hindi po siya naka-phrase na tanong, Mr. Chair. Kaya malinaw talaga na oo, Sir Chair, tingnan ba naman natin yung salita, di ba? Na ang speaker daw ay kasabwat ng tri-by-rate na yan. So, Mr. Chair, hindi po pwede na yung fake news o yung red tagging ay kinukulong natin siya as commentary or as question. Kaya, Mr. Chair, ang mga media na hindi kaya mag-distinguish what is fact and what is opinion, ano yung commentary at ano yung hindi. Actually, Mr. Chair, delikado sa lipunan natin. Yun lang, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Mandel. The Honorable for the House Bill 97.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before beginning my interpellation, I simply want to express my appreciation